Hello and welcome to Learn with Indrjeet. This is another video in the series of videos titled Building a To-Do Management System Application in Microsoft.NET 8. In the previous video, we went to the domain project and created a model for to-do group. Then we created the generic repository, a repository for to-do groups, and a unit of work. So if you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch that first. In this video, we are going to the infrastructure layer and we'll create folders for the app.db context, and then we will implement the generic repository, the to-do groups repository, and the unit of work. So let's get started. So here we are in Visual Studio. Let's implement the DB context and the repositories that we created in the previous video. So in the infrastructure layer, let's first of all import the packages for Entity Framework Core. But before that, let's do a change in the I repository. So we need to replace the I enumerable with the list. And one more thing, this delete will not take ID, it will take a T model. Okay, so this is a change that we need to do in the I repository. Now let's go to manage NuGet packages for infrastructure project, and let's have the entity framework related packages. So first is Microsoft Entity Framework Core, the base package. Let's install that, accept. Then the proxies, so the proxies package, install, accept. And then we need to have the SQL Server package. Here it is, install. Okay, so now the infrastructure has all the packages related to Entity Framework Core. Now let's go ahead and create a folder called context and another folder for repositories. Okay, in the context folder, let's add a new class called app.db context. Let's make it public and let's inherit this class from the db context class that is there in the Microsoft Entity Framework Core package. Right, now let's create the constructor of this class, and in the constructor we pass db context options of type app.db context, name it as options, and pass it to the call the base class constructor. And now let's add a db set for the to-do group and name it as to-do groups. Get set, that's fine. Save the context, Ctrl K E to remove the unnecessary usings. So the app.db context class is ready. Now let's implement the repositories. So first of all, we'll add a new class called repository. It will be a generic one. Let's make it public and make it a generic class of T model. inherit it from I repository of T model, where T model is a class, of course, and let's take help from Visual Studio to implement the interface. Okay, so let's have all the functions in the same order that they are in the interface. Okay, so we have the get by id, create. After create we have the update. Let's bring it up. Then we have the delete. Then we have create range and the update range. Okay, and then the delete range. Okay, fine. Now let's have a protected protected read only appdb context, and let's name it as underscore appdb context. Fine. Rename extract, no. Okay, let's inject it into the constructor of the repository. So copy that, paste it over here, and underscore appdb context will be equal to the appdb context. Now let's start implementing the methods. Okay, so the get will be return underscore appdb context dot set of type T model to list async, because it should return a task of list. Why is it complaining? Appdb context dot list async must be the function. Not there. Let's try again. Dot list. Okay, now let's copy this part and implement the next one. So dot find async by the id and as a task. Okay, now create is a void, so it is not going to have this return. So let's copy the rest of the part and add. So we have add and we pass in the model. Okay, in the update, same way, the update is there and it requires the model to be passed into. Now the delete, again same way, remove is a function and it accepts the model. Okay, now create range is just like that. So create range, dot add range. Okay, and we pass all the models to it. Same way, let's copy that, paste that over here and change the function name to update range. Fine, and here Let's change the function name to remove range. Okay, so our generic repository has been implemented. Let's press Ctrl K E to remove the unnecessary usings and Ctrl S to save the document. Okay, so the repository is now implemented. Now we need to implement the to-do groups repository. So let's copy this name. Go ahead, add a new class. Name is to-do repository. Let's make it public. And this class will inherit from the repository of type to-do group, and also I2do group repository. Okay, now let's implement this interface. So here we have okay, there is one squiggly. It says implement generate a constructor of this class and call the base constructor. Fine, we just did that, and now this class will be able to access the parent appdb context. Okay, so appdb context dot to do group to do groups, save changes, no, the entity context ID, it will accept a to do model. Okay, let me go to the appdb context and make it public db set of to do groups so that I can access it here. So the to do groups dot first or default async where x such that x dot group name dot to lower is exactly equal to whatever we have passed in the model dot group name converted to lower. Okay, so this is a function, and here we have the return, right? So now our to do groups repository is also implemented. KE save all. Okay, now let's implement the unit of work. So copy the name, repositories, add new class, unit of work, change it to public, and let's inherit it from the I unit of work and implement interface. So let's have a private read only appdb context variable called the appdb sorry, appdb context, and let's initialize it through the constructor. So ctor appdb context without the underscore and underscore appdb context. Fine, let's take this variable also up above, and instead of throwing a new exception, let's have a getter. So get, and in the constructor we will initialize the to do groups repository as new to do groups repository and pass the underscore appdb context to the constructor. Okay. Now, when we call the dispose, the underscore appdb context will be disposed, and when we call the save changes, it will return underscore appdb context dot save changes is sync, like so. Control K E and Control S, right? So in this video we implemented the appdb context, the repository, generic repository, the to-do groups repository, and the unit of work, right? In the next video we'll be going to the application project to implement the view model, the DTO, and auto mapper for the to-do groups, right? I hope you like the content of this video. If that is so, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your time. Keep learning.